We're going to watch a small video who is going to give advice to a lady, and the lady is asking him for advice. But the problem that we have in today's culture is that if you speak the truth, or at least if you speak your mind, it's considered rude at best and sexist at worst. So let's listen to the advice that he's trying to give to this lady and see if he is a bad person or not.
I honestly want a six-figure guy. Is what I'm realizing.
And ma'am, and that's my point. You ladies all feel like, listen, you ladies all feel like you're the exception to the rule. And then when someone like myself comes along and gives you a dose of reality, instead of just accepting it, it's like, yeah, but I'm special. You don't know any men on this level that are not your father, that aren't related to you. That means you don't know these men. You don't know where to go get them. You don't know what they want. But you're still saying, pick me. They don't want mid-30-year-old baby mamas. I'm trying to be polite, man, but they don't want those.
Can I ask you a question?
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
Why is that so? Okay, go ahead.
Why is it so? What is?
Go ahead.
From my point of view, I feel like I get what you're saying. They do have better options, but also those better options are younger girls. Those younger girls don't necessarily 20-year-olds are not necessarily attracted to 45-year-olds.
Bullshit. I'm 51 and I can't beat them off with a stick. That's another one on you lies. No, younger women are attracted to older men. What are you talking about?
I think this is a huge misunderstanding, which happens a lot on Western social media. But people in Eastern Europe do seem to understand the fact that men and women are attracted to different things. And I don't mean every individual man and every individual woman, because there are exceptions. But on average, when you're talking about groups, there do seem to be different attractions. And I think the reason most people believe that men and women are attracted to similar things is due to empathy. Most people think, well, if I'm attracted to this, if this is how I am, then surely other people must be the same. But when I was a teenager and I couldn't get a date, at first I thought, well, maybe it's because of my look. So I tried getting a different haircut. I thought about dyeing my hair. I thought about getting different clothing. Because that was what I was attracted for in women. I was attracted by looks. But then as I grew up, I realized that that's not the case. Women have different things that they like in men. And I think it's normal for this to happen because men and women are supposed to complete each other. A man desires things that he doesn't have in a woman, and a woman desires things that she doesn't have in a man. And for some reason, like, this is intuitive. I think like every single person growing up realizes this, but in the West, because of culture, because what people say on the media, because of various comedy shows and movies and political correctness, it's not really okay to say these things out loud. And because of this, you have individuals that don't understand why they can't find a significant other. Because they're thinking about it from their point of view. They're using their standards and they're projecting it upon others rather than accepting the real world. Rather than accepting that just because I'm interested into men my age, then that means that men must be interested in girls their age. Which is completely not true because, yes, I mean, if you look at various relationships, if you look at the people in your life that have a relationship, you'll notice that it's usually either they're both the same age or the man is older and the woman is younger. Very rarely, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's very rarely that you will see a young man and an elderly woman in a relationship. It can happen, but it's very rare. For example, my fiance is 9 years younger than me, and she doesn't find that weird at all. Her family doesn't find it weird at all. But I did ask her, like, would you consider dating a guy that's 9 years younger than you? And she said, definitely not. Because the attraction and the things we're looking for in a partner isn't the same.
That's another one you lies. No, younger women are attracted to older men. What are you talking about?
So can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So do you feel like a woman like me?
Uh-huh. What would you rank yourself on a scale from 1 to 10? You cannot use 7.
Would I rate myself?
Just your face.
My face when I wake up, 5, but when I put myself together, 6.
Okay. And how tall are you?
5'5".
Dress size.
I'm sorry?
Your dress size.
A 3.
Okay. So that makes you, if you give yourself a 5, that's average.
Yes.
So average looking women tend not to get high earning men. They tend to get average men.
So,
stop right there. Stop right there. Stop right there. Breathe and digest. You're 35 years old and you can look around and see the world. You don't tend to see higher earning men with average looking women. Off rip. If you do see them, they got their average looking woman when they were both really young and he built his way up. But a man earning the kind of money you're talking about does not go for an average looking woman.
So we find ourselves knee deep into political incorrectness land because you're not supposed to articulate these things. However, I think it's important to articulate these things because you might help a person make the right decisions. And I think what's worse than being offended is to be a person that wants to know the truth, but is very confused because everyone just lies to them. And the truth is that men are attracted firstly and foremost by looks. This is the most important thing. It's not the only thing, but it's the most important thing. Looks. And it's not that society teaches us to be attracted in looks. I never got the lesson where, my father sat me down and tried to introduce me into the roles of the patriarchy to explain to me like, look, son, okay, I know you're 7, but when you grow up, you're going to be attracted in breasts. And then, he pulled off a big chart showing like various breast forms and sizes and like, these are the ones you're going to like. These are the ones you shouldn't like. And now we're going to move on to asses. Like, this is not something that is in our control. It's just simply what we are attracted to. The expression, the penis has a mind of its own, never rings true. But for some reason, there is this way of thought within the United States and other Western countries that society teaches men on what they will and will not find attractive. Like, you can somehow socially condition people on what they should and shouldn't find interesting or attractive. And I don't think it's working. I think it's just like praying the gay away. It's like if a person is born in a way, like that's what they're going to be interested in. And the overwhelming amount of guys are interested first and foremost in looks. So if you are interested in dating a man and you consider yourself to be average looking, okay, you're not average as a person. Like maybe you're very skilled at your job, at starting a business. Maybe you're very skilled in other departments, but none of those matter. What matters first and foremost is how you look. And if you consider that you're average looking, then what that means is that you are in the general population. It's where the biggest amount of people are. The biggest number of people are average, okay? Because that's the definition of average. The smallest amount of groups are either the people at the top or the people at the bottom. They're not average. They're either above or below average. And free market economics applies even in this. It's supply and demand. If you want to be with a person on the top, you have to realize that the supply is very limited because there's not a lot of people at the top. And the demand is very high because everyone else that's also at the top and average and below, everyone wants to be with the groups that are at the top because that's why you consider them to be sought after. And unfortunately, this is the place where we get out of fantasy land and you need to have realistic expectations. because it's literally like a job interview. Dating is 100% like a job interview. But for some reason, it's okay to articulate this when it comes for men. It's not okay to articulate this when it comes for women. For example, if I were to go back in time when I was 18 years old and I had a huge crush on the most popular girl in my high school, and I would tell myself, dude, just forget it. Just forget it. Like, look at her boyfriend. Her boyfriend is a lawyer. He's got a car. He's got his own house. He's got his own apartment. He's got his stuff together. He's very charismatic. He goes to the gym. You're not going to have a chance with this woman. Just forget it. Like, if I were to give that talk to myself back then, it would be completely appropriate. And I'm glad that it's completely appropriate because this helped me understand things. It helps you understand you yourself better as a person. Because it is like a job interview. It's like, imagine if a lawyer wants to work at the most prestigious law firm in the United States. And when you look at their resume, they're an average lawyer. They lose a lot of cases. Sometimes they don't know the legislation very well. They make a lot of mistakes. They don't have any connections. Yeah, it would make for an interesting movie. It would make for a very interesting Hollywood show where I guess they're trying really hard and their passion really brings them all the way up and manages to work at the expensive law firm. But in real life, that's just having unrealistic expectations. They would be much better off spending that time trying to find a average law firm for them so that they can earn money and put food on the table. But if it was dating and we're talking about political correctness, the normal thing to do would be to tell that person, you know what? Don't look at any other law firms. You do not lower your standards. You know you belong at the most prestigious law firm in the United States, and if you can't get in there, it's better not to choose anything. Like, you don't need to work at the most prestigious firm in the United States to be happy. Like, all you need to do is just be yourself and keep trying. And keep trying, and eventually, you know, the people at the most prestigious law firm, they're going to look at you and they're going to realize what mistake they're doing by not having you aboard. And I find it to be incredibly disingenuous. I mean, sure, you're not going to offend anyone if you say these things, because they're the correct things to say. But you know what's the worst thing? You're not helping anyone either.
Ma'am, you please don't make me say it.
Say what? I really just wanted some advice. I love your
I'm giving you advice, but you're not taking it. The advice is, ma'am, you're average looking at best.
I'm taking it in, but...
Okay, but you're not accepting the fact that, okay, average looking women, average looking woman who's older, average looking older woman with a 13-year-old son, average looking woman with a 13-year-old son with a sketchy baby daddy. This gets worse every time I say something. And now you're asking for a man who's in the top 10% of men. You don't qualify for one. And you're making, I mean, I don't want to have to go there, but when you put in all these other factors, why can't you just get a man that's an average guy?
Sometimes I feel like in order to fully submit, I have to feel like he's in.
Well, then you're gonna die alone. How about that? Let me just cut to the chase, ma'am. You can feel like what you want to, but women like you die alone.
This is probably the most offensive thing that I have heard. But what does offense have to do with being true? It's very similar to that joke featuring the most pious man on earth. You see, the most pious man on earth fell in water and he was drowning. And he believed that because he is pious, God will save him. God will literally reach out from the heaven, lift him from the water, and carry him out to land in a miracle. And eventually, a lifeboat arrives and offers to save the man. And he says, no, God will save me because I am the most pious man on earth. And then a helicopter arrives and throws a ladder to the guy, and he rejects it. He says, no, God will save me because I'm the most pious man on earth. And then the guy ends up drowning. So as he reaches the gates of heaven, he asks God, why didn't you save me? And God says, I did try to save you. I sent you a helicopter and a lifeboat. And this is exactly what's happening with a lot of people. And it's not just in dating, mind you. It's in job seeking. Like, for example, there could be job offerings that they say they're better than that position. So they decline job after job after job. And then they realize that they're jobless, the mortgage is coming, and they can end up homeless because they didn't want to take a job that is lesser for them. And it happens as well in dating. Now, in the case of this lady, what's interesting is that telling her what this guy said is politically incorrect, but the way this lady is thinking isn't politically incorrect. I mean, she admits that she is average, but she would view it lowering herself to go with another average guy. Or to go with a below average guy, working class lad, which doesn't make a lot of money. He's got obligations. Ew, why would she go with someone like that? She deserves better. And reality is, because it sounds unfair, right? Like it really sounds unfair. But the real world is like this. In high school, and even, I guess, until you're 22, 24, women have all the power. I mean, if you're a guy that is in high school, doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't have his own car, lives with his parents, all of these things outside of his choices, outside of his power to change, because if you're born in a medium or low-income family, and you don't have your own house, and you're in high school, like, what are you going to do about it? The only way you can have a car is if your parents buy you one. So if you're this type of guy that doesn't have the money to go out clubbing, the car to drive a girl around, it's going to limit your dating options quite a lot. And if it happens that maybe you have like a little bit of autism, or you're insecure, or maybe you're very shy, you're not charismatic, like all of these are minuses that limit the type of women that are interested into you. And there's nothing you can do about it at that age. Women are the ones that get to choose. Now, sure, in time, when you finish high school and maybe you get a good job and maybe you get financially secure and you buy all of these things, and maybe you interact with a lot of people, so you're not as introverted as you used to be. Maybe you manage to become a little bit more charismatic, and you're working to improve your personality, to be more likable by other people, men and women. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to, all of a sudden, climb up the social ladder when it comes to dating, and you're going to be able to have more options. And when you have more options, you now have standards. When you were 18 in high school, you would probably date anyone. You would probably date any girl that was interested into you. Because no one wants to be single. Everyone wants companionship. You didn't like the fact that you were walking on the street on a warm Saturday night and you saw all those couples holding hands. You noticed that all of your friends are not hanging out anymore because they're with their significant others. You probably didn't like that. Because at the time, you weren't having much value when it came to dating. Why weren't you having much value? Because people weren't seeking you out. All of a sudden, when people start seeking you out, you have standards. For the girls, it's the reverse. For the girls, when they're young and they're beautiful, all of a sudden, a lot of guys seek them out, so they have a lot of value. And as time goes by and they make interesting life choices or life decisions, which is not politically correct to say that the choices have consequences, and it might influence how others perceive you down the road. It's not okay to tell them that. But the reality is that these choices do matter. And when you reach the age of 35, the number of people seeking you out starts to dwindle. So it would only be normal that your standards, which you used to have, would dwindle as well. Why do we have standards? That's a good question. Why do we have standards? We have standards because when it comes to human companionship, you're going to pick a person. Even if 10,000 people are interested, you still need to pick one. How do you pick one out of 10,000? Well, you need to have standards. But when no one is looking for you, what standards are we talking about? This is the same like the guy that can't pay mortgage and he's got one job offering. What standards? I mean, unless it's a demeaning job, something that really would make you frown and not want to do, then sure, but you're going to accept the consequence of being homeless. The consequences. This is something very interesting. I notice on a lot of forums, a lot of women happen to have children from previous relationships. And they try to, I don't know, shame men for not wanting them. Yes, I think this is the good way to put it. Like shame someone, like why aren't you interested in a woman that has a child? And the answer is because most men who have the option of going with a woman without a child is probably going to go with that. And I'll tell you why. Okay, again, it's politically correct, but it needs to be addressed. Why would they do that? Well, if she already has a child, she's not going to be able to experience with you the wonder of having your first child, right? Like going through childhood, through parenting together is going to be robbed away from you simply because she already has gone through parenthood and she already knows what's up. Right? You're not going to get that experience from the grounds up. Secondly, what if she doesn't want another child? Like why should I all of a sudden care for some other man's child? And what if I can't love that other man's child the same that I will love mine? Like why do you want to put me in this difficult situation? What if she won't love my child the same way she loves the previous one? It's, like certain things that I could just avoid. And then the other thing is like, okay, well, now I need to put more money into the relationship because I don't just take about one person. I now need to care about two people. And then there's the problem with the first relationship, the first boyfriend. Is he going to come around? Is he going to want to see his kid? What if I invest a lot of money into that child and all of a sudden the previous guy comes into life and he wants to take that kid back? And what type of relationship is she going to have with the why even bother in all of this? Now that doesn't mean no man will have a woman that is already with a child, but the type of man that does is probably going to have less standards. And is probably going to be considered average, which this lady doesn't even want to consider.
And your reality of your life has showed you that. You don't have the kind of men that you want knocking on your door trying to find you. See, what we've done in this country, this world, is we've told women like yourself that you can have it all. And you got a Prince Charming who's 6 foot, 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, jawline, all this other kind of stuff. And I'm sorry, man. No. Most people get average people, especially average people. And you're an average person. I mean, let's be real. You're not running Microsoft. You got a pet grooming business. You've been making 6 figures for the last 3 years. Okay. But if I looked at you and I took all that off of you, all the eyelashes and all the hair, what do you look like under there?
I mean, I look the same.
No, you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't have all that on.
I'm sorry?
No, you don't. You don't look the same because if you did, you wouldn't have all that on.
So what is your advice for women that...
All right, I'll tell you my advice, man, because you're not listening to me. This is why I always recommend you ladies need therapy. Because you seem like a sweet woman, but you're not getting it.
It's kind of funny because walking a person through the steps and justifying why the person needs to lower their standards is considered mean. But the person's mindset who views that average guys don't deserve a woman like her, that's not mean at all. And then it's the idea of income. Now, it's true, a lot of people that work as doctors or invest a lot of time in their jobs are going to have difficult time within the household. And this is true for men as well. Like, I know a lot of friends who have parents that argue because the man is spending way too much time at work, or the man doesn't come home often because he's married to his job, and the woman doesn't like that, and it creates friction. So money isn't everything. But you know what? Like, those men are happy with the decisions that they took. Like, they at least say, okay, like, I'm married to my job, I spend a lot of time at work, and because of that, I am aware that it's going to influence my love life. But they know this, like, they're aware of this. But then you have the other end where you have certain people that want both. You know, and it's important to want and have desires and aspirations, but it's also important to be realistic about what you want. And in this case, this lady, you know, she doesn't understand, like, why she can have a 6-figure income and not get a guy that has a 6-figure income. And because men aren't interested in how much you earn. Unless, like this guy said, it's like, if you're running Microsoft, okay, you know, if you're a CEO, if you're really at the top and you make like a 7-figure income or an 8-figure income, yeah, okay, you know, even I might be tempted. Like, all of a sudden, all your looks would go away, and I'll be like, all right, you know, like, if I, like, this is just going to set me up for life. Like, this is just the perfect future. You know, I'm going to take a bullet because at least my child is going to have the best education, the best life ever. Like, if I, you know, like, if I go into that family, like, I will take a bullet, but my children will be very well off. Maybe a senator or something, huh? Yeah, then I literally wouldn't care. It's like, if you make 8-figure salary, yeah, all right. But when you make like 6-figure salary, which is still a lot for a Romanian, I would still consider like doing it for love, because a woman that has a lot of money isn't affecting the love at all. You know, like, men are interested in looks, as I said. And I know a lot of men that are willing with a 6-figure salary. In fact, not that they're willing, they would much rather have a woman that isn't rich so that they can see how happy she is when they start providing for her. You know, this is something interesting that a lot of these ideologies don't account for. It's like, why do men like to give stuff to women? And it's because it makes us feel good. Like, we can't rationalize it. You know, like, yeah, it is irrational if you think about it. It is irrational. Why should I give things to another human being? Like, why should I just give stuff away? You know, like, why shouldn't she give me stuff? Like, why isn't it on equal footing? And the answer is because it's not rational. It's simply how we're built. Like, when we provide to someone else, it makes us happy. So, you know, like, for example, this lady doesn't view a person that earns less than her to be on equal footing. But for men, that doesn't matter. In fact, it might be a positive. Now, okay, I wouldn't want a woman that doesn't go to work at all and doesn't have a job at all. But if I were to choose, like, 2 beautiful women, you know, one earns more and one earns less than me, I'd probably go with one that earns less, because it would still make me feel happy that I'm able to give her stuff and she can be excited when I buy her something interesting. A woman that earns more, it's like, yeah, you know, like, I can buy her something interesting, and she's like, meh, you know, like, I already have 5 of those. But anyway, like, this is a conversation for another time. What I wanted to say is that this guy is called Brother Ben X. He's on Facebook. I'm going to put a link to this video in the description so you can check it out. I just wonder, like, why is it really funny to hear these things that should be common sense? Like, this is the type of talk that a father should have with a daughter. And tell her, like, look, if you are young and you're beautiful and you get a lot of guys that are looking into you, that doesn't mean that for the rest of your life you're going to have this. Like, you need, while there's a lot of guys that are lining up in order to see you, you should consider making a choice now, because later on, you're not going to get those choices. It's like when when you go old, it's kind of difficult to start a career at the age of 65, if you know what I mean. It's kind of difficult at 65 to start med school. It is. You know, is it fair? No, it's not. But it's difficult, like, when you're 50 to become a death metal singer. Again, they're not impossible. Like, I know people who did it because they really wanted, but it's very difficult. Like, certain things are just, a door opens and stays open for so long. And after that, it closes and you can't really do anything about it. It's not fair. But it is what it is. And telling it is politically incorrect. Let me know what you guys think about this video, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.